What a year the month of January felt like. Hello everyone, welcome back to a fictional escapist. My name is Kris, and today's video is going to be the January reading wrap up for 2025. This has felt like an extremely long month in terms of life events and things that have been happening. Some exciting things going on, some very scary things going on over on other parts of the world, and but overall a good reading month, and we can finally say goodbye to Dust of Dreams because I fucking finished it this month, which is fantastic. Anyway, so before we jump into the wrap up, make sure you're checking the description box down below for links to my social media and Discord should you want to come along for the ride. I haven't released a February hangout zone for Discord just yet because I don't really know what that looks like. Things are happening, life is happening. My own book I expect to get back this month, and yeah. Anyway, so I'll be there at some point, and I'll let people know when it's going to be over on the community tab and also in the Discord itself. So if you do want to come and hang out, feel free to do so. That's where you're more likely to catch me in lives for a chit chat if that is something that you're keen for. Now, in the month of January, I read a total of 8 books. So 2 of these were continuations that I was finishing in the month. One happened very early. And like I said, I finally got through Dust of Dreams and finished that off, which was the goal towards the end of the month. I did a split, so I had 4 indie books and also 4 trad pub books, which is great. That's exactly where I want to be. A little heavy on the male author side, so I'd like to rectify that going forward to make sure I'm having more of a mix of genders in there because, yeah, it was just a veritable sausage fest. Sometimes that's okay, but I would like to get some more ladies of fantasy happening. I did purchase, well, I had 2 books purchased for me, and I received a Kickstarter, and I picked up a couple of things over on either Audible or through just the ebook store on Kindle over on Amazon. So we'll go through those first. In terms of spending, I backed a Kickstarter and spent $80 in the month of January, but and a couple of dollars here and there for these ebooks, and then I did borrow 2 off Kindle Unlimited. So we'll do that first. In terms of spending, I have no idea what the actual amount is, but I'm definitely going to go over my 1,000 for the year just because of Kickstarters and wanting to back things. However, I'm incredibly poor for a reason, which will be coming out in another video. Anyway, the books that I purchased, which if you've watched the vlog, sorry, this is a repeat. This is Pay the Piper by George A. Romero and Daniel Kraus. So I believe the Daniel Kraus, I think it was, yes, went through George A. Romero's stuff after the time of death and found this manuscript and decided to go ahead, finish it, and publish it. So that is Pay the Piper. It looks very cool. I have no idea when I'm getting to it. I then have Grady Hendrix, Witchcraft for Wayward Girls. This will be my first foray into Hendrix. I do have another book by this author, which looks like a VHS tape. I think it's My Best Friend's Exorcism, but I haven't read that one. So this one intrigues me a lot. So I picked this one up. I don't know when it's going to be. I find that my horror reads did increase over 2024. However, they do tend to be more mood ready. So I will go and pick up a horror when I feel like it, or when I just want a bit of a change from the fantasy and sci-fi burnout that can sometimes happen when we're reading a lot of one genre. And the Kickstarter that I got, which will be being read in February, with any luck, is Supplicant by Delilah Wan. This chunky beast is a book 2 in this series, and I'm very much looking forward to getting to this one. So those are the physical books that I purchased. The 2 books that I've borrowed from Kindle Unlimited is Terminal Secrets. This is book 2 in Cerberus by Andy Peliquin. Had a really good time with the first book, Assassination Protocol, which I'll go into in this wrap up, and went ahead and borrowed that second book. I will probably purchase the audio book when the funding or credit is available to me because it was really good on audio. So I'll probably continue doing this series on audio. Also nice and short in terms of audiobook listening. I now drive for 6 hours a week, and that's usually enough time at my reading speed on audiobooks to get one of these done in a week. So potentially that is the way that will go. And the other book that I purchased, I've borrowed from Kindle Unlimited, was The Hummingbird's Tear, and this is by C.M. Curley. And this came from a video that Faye did over at Books and Chocoholic, which is one of my now very comforting favorite channels. So I'll have her link down below. Go ahead and check her out. But this was on a favorites list, and the cover intrigued me. As soon as I hear wildly underrated indie, I'm in. So I've gone ahead and borrowed that first book. I'm not sure when I'll get to it, but I'm hoping this is one that does grip me in a mood read. And like I'm looking at the cover again now. You'll be seeing it up here, and it's just fantastic. Like what a banger of a cover. Then I picked up three other books on Kindle, so two of them were free for various sales and things like that. The first is Lords of Asylum, a gritty medieval fantasy novel by Kevin Wright. I know very little about this author. I like the cover art style. I've definitely seen it increasing in recent years, but it was free. Who am I to judge? Who am I to say no to a free book? Is The Fall of Selvandria. I hope I pronounced that correctly. I probably butchered it. This is by Tim McKay, who is someone I respect quite a bit over on the socials. And the book just got a revamp with a new cover, which looks absolutely fantastic. And I'm looking forward to it. We've got a couple of good blurbs. What are they called? No idea. Where authors have like put things on the. I've done them. What are they called? Anyway, they excite me, and now I have this book in Kindle. The one I did pay for, which with an Audible credit, is Level Unknown by David Dalglish. This is a lit RPG adventure and sounds like a bit of fun. So I'll probably fit this one in at some point this year with audio now that I've got more time to do that. Which, after many minutes, brings us to my actual wrap up and what I read in the month of January. So we're going to start off with Dust of Dreams. This book is like takes the award for the book that's taken me the longest to read. Although not as long as I originally thought. I thought I was sitting on this one for about 3 months. According to Goodreads, I started on the 11th of December, which I don't know if that's correct. I feel like it took me longer, but if I'm going by Goodreads, 11th of December to like bang on 31st of January, which is when I finished it. So it took fucking forever. I will be doing the Crippled God probably in March. I want to say that I'm going to start in March when I've got some alpha reads happening because I'm familiar now with this writing style to sort of fit in between those. Look, my thoughts on this were it's my least favorite by far. I think I ended up on a 3-star read for it. And the reason is that this is 1,300 pages. It could have been 700 pages and had the same shit happen. I like the thematics. I like the philosophical navel gazing. And I don't think that for Erickson's writing style and the way that he's progressing the story and the characters, that you would need to take all of that out, but you could still take away 700 pages. I appreciated some of the scenes in this. There were some very cool scenes, some very quotable moments in the book. I've got a couple dog-eared here. Sorry for people who hate doing this on books, but these are old and they're not going to any other owners. I will probably reread the series at some point, but like, who has the time to reread 10 massive books? So I'm hoping the payoff is there for book 10. I feel like I'm very not middle of the road. Like I like this series, but I'm not shouting its praises from the high heavens. I can see why people love it if you love that sort of writing style. The world building is very good and I have enjoyed that, but lots of words, very grim. I don't know. I'm feeling a bit about it while still liking parts of it. So we'll see how the last book goes, and I do plan on continuing with I think it's the Ian Esselmont books that come directly after this series. There's a series of 6 books, so I'll read that afterwards, and we'll go from there at that point. The other one I was finishing off was Last Rock by Phil Tucker. This is progression fantasy at its finest. I've said it before, I'll say it again. It was fantastic. Last Rock really took the relationships of two of our main protagonists, Scorio and Naomi, and really sort of played with the boundaries there, which I loved. Now, Phil Tucker does slow burn progression fantasy extremely well. And what I say by slow burn is the books are quite big and we're doing a lot, so we don't feel like we're ever stagnant in what we're doing because it's progression. We are always looking to progress, and Scorio is very upfront about his feelings about progression needing to be better. We had a lot of we had a better look, I should say, at the wider world of what is happening here and what they're being trained to do, and whether that's good or bad, and also a deeper look into Naomi's thoughts about the whole process as someone who was born into this world rather than being generated into this world like Scorio has been. The progression elements were fun. The world is great. The banter that the characters have with one another, are really good. A little bit of repetition in this one, which I didn't love, but that is a me thing more so than a book thing. Some people don't mind that so much. I find in progression fantasy, because we are doing not necessarily the same thing, but the motivation behind what we're doing is the same, and that we're looking to progress, can sometimes get a little bit repetitive for me personally. So that's that. I can't say too much more because this is book three. I hear on the grapevine we're getting books 4 and 5 this year, so that's pretty exciting. I am doing it on audio. I think the audiobook for book 4 generally comes out much later than the ebook. So I'm hoping we get book 4 this year, and I don't know whether I'm just going to jump in and read book 5 or I'm going to wait. We'll see. The first book I read for the month, so this timeline's all over the shop, and the first movie read was Elder Race by Adrian Tchaikovsky. This was a gift from Ryan for Christmas from Ryan for Christmas last year, and I was curious. This was my first foray into Tchaikovsky. Definitely won't be my last. I had a pretty good time with it. Probably sitting at about, I'd say, a 4 star for this one if you go by star ratings. We're following the story of a young girl who is fourth in line for the throne. Her name is Linnes, I want to say, if I'm remembering that correctly. Yes. And she wants to help her city, her town. There have been some mysterious things happening, and she's like, the only way that I can fix this is to go and get the last of the elder race. And it was a very interesting thematical look at depression and trying to get through your own mental health issues because other people need you more. So while also being entertaining at surface level. So I've said this in like a mini review for this book, is that it can be read at surface level, and if you're reading it at surface level, I think your reading experience with this book will sit around a 3 star. It's entertaining, it's fine. If you're reading it for a deeper thematic and you're looking for that deeper thematic, then that reading experience will likely be enhanced, in my opinion. And that's certainly what I felt with this one. So, diving into Tchaikovsky with a novella, I have another novella, I think it's Orcs, I want to say, on my Kindle. So I'm not sure when I'll get to the rest of Tchaikovsky, but I think I will probably either read what I have behind me, which I think is Alien Clay, potentially the one from the Broken Binding, or the space opera series. I have no idea what it's called. Don't if you can let me know in the comments. I have no idea. It's escaping my brain right now. I then picked up The Genesis of Change, so another novella. This one was by Olivia J. Elliott. Now, this packs a punch. We are dealing with the alchemists, who are very philosophical beings. They're always hunting for more information, more knowledge, and there was some wild, like, human experimentation that was happening in this book, which really made you think. I just at novella stage, this was 119 pages. Let's actually look at how many pages it was for the story. 109 pages, and I'm now a fan of Olivia J. Elliott and pretty much climbing on an auto by author for me. This is definitely one to read when you're in the right headspace. Not that it's particularly difficult to read, there are trigger warnings and things like that, but it's more that this took brain power for me to read. It wasn't just a fluffy book, it was something that I wanted to think about as I read it, and it made me question my own experiences and my own biases. And this is one of those ones where you put it down and you stare at a wall for a good 20 minutes because you need to figure out what you've taken away from this book. And what I took away from it was a look at my past experiences as a different gender and going forward into the person that I present as today, and also what that means for my future. And I thought that was a really interesting thing to sit and reflect on from a book, a fiction book. So, I've got another Olivia J. Elliott to go in February called Dance With Me, and I'm looking forward to that very much. I picked up Ice Station by Matthew Riley. This was another mood read for me. I was looking for something sort of short, sharp. I know what I'm getting with a Matthew Riley book. They are not my favorite books by any means. They are not the best writing that I've ever read, but I ended up on a 3.5 for this one. I almost DNF'd it. There was a scene with killer whales, and the prose was so fucking repetitive, and I was like, I cannot with the whatever deck it was on, and the killer whales and the hovercrafts, and anyway, the words just repeated like many times, and I got the shits. But I'm glad that I persevered because this was entertaining. Matthew Riley writes action fiction, and this is following a agent of the Navy, I want to say, I don't know, somewhere, Agent Shane Schofield, who has been sent to Antarctica as like a first responder team because there's been a weird metal that has been discovered and they think it's a spaceship and they want to be the first to get it because he works for the US military. And isn't that happening now in the world at the moment as well? So they want to like secure this metal, make sure it's not a spaceship, or if it is, be the very first for a potential new power for the country. And absolute fucking chaos ensues in this book. Also had an adorable animal companion called Wendy, who was a seal. Maybe one of my favorite animal companions to date. But this was a wild time, which I found with Matthew Riley pretty much every time I picked it up. I do believe this is a series. I believe there are two more books in it. I remember in my high school years, the kids are picking this up and raving about it. So now I've finally read it and experienced it. I will read the other two. I just don't know when. I will say that Matthew Riley was 23 when he wrote this. So, props to him. Quite impressive for a 23-year-old to go ahead and write a book of that caliber. The next book that I listened to was Assassination Protocol by Andy Peliquin. I'll put the cover up here. And this is a sci-fi romp. It is a cyberpunk-esque, very fast-paced, very high-stakes series. It was nice and short. I think it was a 6 to 7 hour audiobook, maybe 8. And we're following Nolan Garrett, who is a member of Cerberus. He is trying to take out someone in a drug ring. Cerberus is a group of highly trained assassins. He's an ex-soldier, and now he's working from contract to contract. And we get a look at these crazy mafia-esque politics inside of this drug ring and this city. And Nolan is just trying to be a good guy and live his life. And I was quite surprised at the beginnings of some of the more in-depth conversations that we're having in a book, which can be read 100% purely for entertainment. So we do have things like disability rep in here. So Nolan lost both of his legs in an accident, and he now wears a suit to be able to do the things that he does when he's taking out these contracts. We have a really not a surface level look, but we have the beginnings of a deep look at addiction and what battling with addiction means for different people, particularly people who work in a service like a military, where it can very much be a coping mechanism, and how battling with that looks for him and also for another character, which I believe will become more present in the future installments of the series. I'm getting tongue tied, apologies. So I really enjoyed that one, and I bought book 2, ready to go when I am ready to go. The next one I picked up was also another indie, and that was The Fall of the Giants by Gregory Contaxis, and this I did on audio as well. This is book 2 in the series. There is a novella in between it, and I have read the first book and the novella. This has been my favorite in the series so far because of the deepening of the lore that we get with their elder races as well. So our group from book 1 sort of splits, and we're following Elliot as he goes to the elder races to try and get their help for the oncoming war that is brewing in the rest of the book. I liked that we did split because we did get a good look at Elliot in the first book, and this gave us an opportunity to see how the other characters shone and where their power comes from within their own realms, rather than just following this one sort of young male protagonist. But I also did like the deepening of the lore with the giants and the elves and the elder races that we had there. So it is a book 2. I don't want to go too much into it, but I had a good time, and I'm looking forward to book 3, which I believe is coming out later this year. Now, I have one more book to talk about, and I can't go too deep into this one either because I will be doing an episode with Ryan over at Genre Blender. So if you're interested in that, I'll link the episode once it's live. It probably will be live next week. So depending on when you're watching this, it'll be there or it won't. Anyway, that is Absolution by Jeff Vandermeer. This was very interesting. So I love Jeff Vandermeer. I want to read everything that this author has written, knowing full well I will not understand everything this author has written. So Absolution was a mind fuck. It was just nuts. This is the 4th installment of the Southern Reach series. This is almost a prequel. It is a prequel. It happens before the events in the Southern Reach trilogy, where we are looking at Area X before the first expedition. So there's 3 parts to this story. The first part is a bunch of biologists going to Dead Town, what is known as Dead Town, and they're starting to experiment with animals, and we get the alligator, or the tyrant, and also the rabbits. And the rabbits freaked me out in the first trilogy, and they freaked me out here too. And then the second book is, or the second part of this book is following old Jim, who is going in and sort of, I guess, staying at the border and doing some experimentation and trying to find some information out about Area X. And then the third part we look at is the first expedition into Area X. So I always hope there'll be more in this world because it's very creepy. Vandermeer has done quite well in coupling the cosmic horror atmosphere, the environmental insanity of the Annihilation, which is the first book, with an easier to read writing style, I would say. But yeah, had a really good time with that as well. So overall, a very successful reading month in January of 2025. What was your favorite read? Let me know in the comments down below. If you like this content, give one of those. If you want to see more of it, click subscribe at your will. I will catch you in the next video. Ciao.